Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy we were able to make this happen. I love having a fellow CrossFitter on the show because, in my perspective, I think CrossFit is the most complete form of training. And most of us don't really understand what it's all about. We feel like we have to be in ridiculous shape to join a CrossFit gym or to even do CrossFit. And we feel like it's only for the strong people and the people who want to lift really heavy. But when you watch the CrossFit Games or you follow the sport, what it actually tries to create is this balance between all of the different modalities, all the different types of sports, and hit on all of the different areas of fitness. So, not just strength, but also agility and speed and power and all these things, and does it in a way where it is adaptable for every single person. And on the last CrossFit Games, we always saw people swimming and cycling and trail running and doing all these things. And so today I'm excited to talk about that, but also excited to get to know you a little bit more too.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I mean, you hit on it perfectly. I couldn't have explained CrossFit any other way.
All right, so I think it's a wrap.
Yeah,
No, just amazing. So
it is. I mean, it's perfect way. That's the perfect way to explain it because a lot of people think like, oh, CrossFit is this. You can't do it. It has all these weird movements, or look at all these strong people. I don't want to be like that. But the thing with CrossFit is you can build any style of body that you want. At
yes,
the same time, you can learn every variation of any type of fitness that you want. Because, like you said, it's a cross training. You're doing endurance, gymnastics, strength training, strongman movements, everything. So if CrossFit isn't your thing, you get to try everything and you're like, oh, I really like gymnastics. Like, let me go try that out. So
right.
I think starting out, CrossFit should be a starter because I think fitness isn't just lifting weights and doing this and running. It's a huge variation. And I
Right.
think to stay with fitness, you have to find the one that you really like.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I got into the CrossFit world, I think I got in the CrossFit world. It must have been I think maybe my early 30s or my late 20s. I'd actually have to go back in history. So first of all, I'm a bit jealous that you found CrossFit way before me and you found it at a young age. But before that, and before I had kids, my gym routine used to be 2 hours long because I knew that you had to do an hour. Yeah, absolutely. And that was the way it was in bodybuilding, right? Because my goodness, I have to get every single muscle. And not only do I have to get every single muscle, but I got to get at every single angle in three different positions to make sure that I got that muscle. And so I remember I used to go to the gym for about an hour and I would do my cardio. Generally, that would be like cycling on that stationary bike or walking or running on the treadmill. And then after that, I would hit my weights. But my weights that day were just focused on one body part. So it was very segmented. It was just focused on a particular area. It could have been a push day. And then another day would have been a pull day. And then accessory movements. And after that would be leg days. And so if ever you missed one workout, I mean, you missed an entire muscle group, right? It was pretty significant. And so when I first discovered CrossFit, I think it was the most humbling experience in my life because my first workout was Fran. And I was like, I was like, this is dumb. What do you mean 21:59? Yeah, whatever. Like, okay, thrusters and pull-ups, like no big deal. And then I was so humbled because I'm just doing round number one, which was 21, and I'm dying. And so to be at a good time, you're supposed to do it under 7 minutes, or even let's say under 10 minutes modified. And it took me almost 15 minutes to complete it. And after that, I was like, I am sold. If I can do this at 21:59, that's all I have to do. Which, by the way, if any of you are not familiar with CrossFit, that means first round is 21 reps of each, second round is 15 reps of each, and then the third round is 9 reps of each. And then you call your time. And so again, that was like the most humbling experience because that was it for me. After that, I couldn't go back to the old ways anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was the same style of training. I started out with same thing. I got into it with, and I think this is what I teach everyone that I've ever worked with. Is start with somebody else on the same level as you,
Yeah.
because you'll last longer. And I had the opportunity to start with my brother-in-law. We are at the same stage. He knew a little bit more than I did, so I had the help of, okay, really do this movement like this, really focus on this muscle, and we split it up. Same thing, push, pull, and then you had legs, and it was the same all the time. And it was fun to do it with him because it was like we didn't care about what anyone else was doing. We were just cracking jokes and doing the workout. And I think that's what made it so much easier and so much better.
Yeah.
And that's what most people like they just don't even want to try. And I think that's the other thing is getting into fitness, you really have to have a why or you will not stick
Mm,
with it.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just also a reminder that no matter what sort of training a person's in, they're going to post photos of themselves in the after, right? Nobody really posts their before photos. Everyone, if you notice, posts like, oh my God, look at my arms and look at my abs and look at all this thing. But if we were to actually witness somebody's journey from the moment they started and actually followed them over time, you would see that we all start in the same place. And we have to start somewhere. And so when we're super intimidated around what that final result looks like, that can oftentimes put us off a little bit. And we'd be nervous to try something thinking that we should look like that in order to do what that person's doing. But we all start somewhere. And I had the privilege of owning CrossFit gyms for 10 years up until the pandemic. And I used to see this all the time. I would see moms come in that just gave birth. I would see all kinds of people, didn't matter their age, it didn't matter what their background was, but there was a starting place for everyone. And within a matter of just months, they completely transformed their world, not just their fitness and their health, but also their whole life, because it gives you confidence, gives you a level of excitement. There's a lot of new friends, there's beautiful community and beautiful connection. And CrossFit is really all about culture. And that's why they kind of call it a cult sometimes, because there is a lot of, like-mindedness that happens there. And then that's also the space where you can talk about training, you can talk about this other thing and not feel like people are judging you for that.
That's yeah, so facts. And the other thing about CrossFit too that I really like is that you're getting everything done in an hour. Like you said, it was 2 hours. Mine was the same way. I was doing 2 hour days. I was trying my hardest to stay in there at least at most an hour and a half, but it would run 2 hours. Somebody talks to you, okay, now it's gonna go even longer. And you're like, man, like I don't want to be in here for that long. And
Right.
that's why I really like CrossFit because you have the choice to do more or you can do the hour-long session and still get a really good workout. And
Right.
that's what I like that segment. The gym that I started in was perfect because we split it up into you have the warm-up, you have a quick stretch out, go straight into strength, and you do the WOD and have a cool down. And I was like, man, we just did all that in an hour. I was like, this is insane. And I
Mm,
feel like I got all the work that I needed to get done.
right.
And that was what really, and that's the key thing with most people, the people that I've gotten into CrossFit, they've always talked about like we'll get into it, we'll start warming up, we'll do a short strength, and they're like, I got a nice pump. And then they're like, what's the workout? And then we'll do a workout for 12. I always start them out with like
Yeah.
12-minute EMOM,
Yeah.
something very short. And then they're like, okay, what's next? I'm like, that's it, you're done, go home. And they're
Yeah.
like, that's it. And I'm like, yeah, you got all your work done in less than an hour. And
Right.
that's like the key thing is because it's the short, easy stuff that's doable that will keep you going. If you just go into the gym just blasting yourself, it's like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Right.
But that's the beauty of CrossFit is it's based off of wherever you're at. So
Yeah.
if you're more advanced, okay, let's go into advanced movements. If you're just starting out, let's get into some basic movements. And it's beautiful to see people progress, especially coming into the gym for the first time and they have no idea how to do CrossFit. And then you come to them 6 months later and they're like, know how to do a snatch, know how to do a clean and jerk. They're in better shape. They feel more confident. And that's what really makes CrossFit like beautiful because they have people to do it with. They have a community. We have a community. And like you said, and you start to gain an interest around just this functional movement. That's all it is. And enhancing your daily life movement. And that's the best thing is, like you said, you get all walks of life, like people that are too old or super old and they're having health issues. They come into CrossFit and their life changes. People
Yes.
that are having babies. That's the other thing that gets me.
Yes.
Pregnant women, I don't know how they do it.
Right.
That's insane though. And I love to see it because it's like, man, like this is really a workout, a form of working out that anyone can do no matter where you're at. And that's what I really like about it.
Right. Yeah, so good, so good. And anyone listening, I just want to share with you that, even though David and I are so passionate, this whole podcast is not about forcing you or convincing you to fall in love with CrossFit, but maybe to give you a new perspective. And especially when we talk about CrossFit, it's not just that sport that we see, that we know to be in a particular gym, but CrossFit really is cross fitness. And if you're already doing a lot of different type of activities, like maybe you're running or maybe you're swimming or maybe you're lifting weights and you're doing all these different things, it's just a compilation of all the different types of trainings and modalities and sports that is fused into one to help you really create more balance around your fitness. And so the last thing I'm going to say about that, because I'm super also curious, David, to learn more about your life and how you came into this world anyway, the last thing I want to share is that what I think would be the most appealing thing in general and above everything else that we said is this was the very first environment and fitness environment for me that I stepped into where it wasn't about your looks, where it wasn't about how you looked. There are no mirrors in a CrossFit gym on purpose because you're supposed to be more in tune with your body. Whereas at other gyms that I used to go to, and especially when I was doing more bodybuilding, like I shared with you, I'd train for 2 hours, it was always focused on how you looked. I mean, you looked in the mirror as you did bicep curls, or you looked in the mirror, it was always looking at yourself in the mirror. So the reason why you trained had exactly and everything to do with how you wanted to look. It wasn't performance based. But then here I was for the very first time doing these types of workouts where it was for time, where I had to perform, and then I had to mark a time and then be able to see my progress also as I continued to stay consistent. And I was able to measure my progress by noticing that my times got faster or noticing that my weights got more closer to the prescribed weight of the workout. And so again, what's beautiful about that is it really gets you into the doing of things and it really gets you into the feeling of things and not just focusing on how you want to look, but really gets so exciting because it builds up that competitive nature in you where you're just competing against yourself. You're competing against who you were yesterday and the goal is to continue to improve. And the way that you're measuring your progress is not aesthetic. It's not about how you looked or how much more defined that bicep looks or that deltoid looks, but it's really just about how much faster you got and how much quicker you recovered and how much more load you were able to do. And so that would be the last comment I want to say about CrossFit. And David, go ahead and add one more in if there's one that came up for you before we start talking
Said
about
it all. I mean, that was perfect. There's nothing to add there. That was the perfect way to put it.
Okay, so good. So maybe offline we'll just continue to jam about CrossFit so that we don't annoy people who are listening. But before we do that, I'm just super curious as to why you came to CrossFit. I know you shared with me a very, very epic and very, very deep and vulnerable story. And so if you're open to sharing what brought you to CrossFit, I would love to hear it and would love the audience as well to listen in.
Yeah, so for me, I like you said, you start out in trying to figure out fitness. What you want to do it, but you don't know how. For me, I had somebody that helped me out. It still wasn't super easy because I was just going based off of what he was telling me, but you just trust the process, you know? And for me at that time, I was going through my fitness journey started as a way to get away from vices. And I was going through a hard time in my life. I was only 16 years old. I decided to start smoking and drinking at that age, just because my family was going through. I'm one of 18. My parents decided to separate, and it was hard. Back and forth with housing. My mom was struggling with finances. I couldn't do anything, so we were going from house to house to house, and it's like you learn. I became that class clown, and I became so unsatisfied. You don't have any real attention. You don't have any guidance, and it's like any attention is good attention. So I became a class clown, you know, just consistently trying to get that attention. And it's like, man, I don't even care if people make fun of me. Like it feels good to actually be seen. And you just continually do this stuff over and over. And then you get deeper and deeper into this black hole. And it's like, you start turning to vices, and mine was weed. I didn't so much drink, but it was just smoking. But I knew deep down that I was better and I had something better inside of me. And that was the key that pushed me to that next level is I knew that I wanted to be something greater. I knew I wanted to give to the world. I knew I wanted to be somebody that was great. And I knew I had that potential inside of me. And I started watching these videos and they were just talking about how you have the power to become whoever you want. And you have to choose, like it's either these vices or you can choose these things that will get you there. And so it's like changing the habits to become the man that you want to be.
Yes.
And so the first thing that I knew is I needed to give up these vices. And the only way that I knew how to do it was by substitution.
Mm.
And by substitution, I mean like you have to, if you really love to smoke and that's your way to feel good, you have to substitute it for something else that'll make you feel the exact same way to change it.
Mm.
So for me, I went and started working out. And I was like, instead of working out, I'll go and work out. So anytime that I feel down, go to the gym, because that's what I would do with weed. So I just substituted out the movement. And as I started building this habit, I started to grow and enjoy not only what it did to me inside the gym, but outside. It
Mm.
was full of energy. You're consistently feeling better about yourself. You feel like you're progressing forward and you're like, okay, this is different. And I think that was the first time that I really felt satisfied with who I was and who I was becoming.
Wow.
And as I continue to do this, I started walking myself slowly but surely, step by step out of this black hole. And I
Mm.
started out in just weight training, basic weight training. And I had a coach that wasn't very helpful. His idea was like, you just eat as much as you can to gain weight. Cause I was only a 155-pound kid, 6 foot, and I was super scrawny, consistently bullied. I hated it though. And I wanted that to go away. And for me, I had to start, and I started, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I just trusted everything that I got. And I was just absorbing as much information, implementing it, and then seeing what it was doing to me. And
Mm.
I started just train all the time, like, because I mean, I was that way, and smoking was my thing to just do whenever I felt that way. So training became my new habit.
Right.
And so I consistently did this. And I got to the point where like I felt unfulfilled. I was like, man, I can't really do anything with fitness. Like I'm not making an impact. Like I'm just looking good. I feel good, but what am I doing for others, you know?
Right.
And for me, it's like I went into the military and that was my way of like kind of going somewhere. I was like, I love my country. I want to serve. I want to do something like out of the ordinary that will make me
Mm.
struggle. And the Marine Corps, of course, was the number one thing on the list. So I chose to go after trying out college, which I didn't really like. I didn't enjoy. I felt on purpose. There was no purpose. And so I chose to join. And when I joined, it definitely changed my entire perspective about life. It was hard mentally, not as much physically. It was only hard physically because of your mentality.
Right.
And you constantly are getting thrown into these loopholes where you're getting screamed at 5 a.m. in the morning. You're getting thrown around. You're getting,
Oh my gosh.
go do this, go do that every second of the day for 3 months straight. And it's like you endure this, and it's like, okay, like, man, like this is tough. This is definitely tough, but you want to give up. It's so easy. All you have to do is say, I'm done. I want to give up. And that's as easy as it is to quit. But I
Mm.
was like, man, if I want to become somebody great, I'm going to have to stick with this.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm finishing this out. And so what I did was I took it chow by chow. You go from morning chow, and if you make it to afternoon chow, you're good. Okay, I made it that far. Now, if you made it to evening chow, that's even better. And it's like, okay, now we're going somewhere. So we took it chow by chow is how we did it. It was so hard that you kind of have to take it that way.
Right.
And so after that, we got deployed into our stations. I went to mine and I really got motivated, especially after boot camp. You get super motivated. You're like, man, like I did something crazy,
Mm.
and you're super hyped up. But for me, I felt like I still wasn't doing anything. And I was like, man, I want to go the next step. And for me, that was special forces. And I wanted to go so bad. I was training. I couldn't make the qualifications. Then I got so fed up that when I got to my new station, they wouldn't let me train anymore. So I was like, man, I'm done with this. I don't care. And they saw my attitude towards it, and they took action immediately. And I started not caring, and they threw me into a mental asylum, which really took me into like a deep, dark spot. And I
Mm.
was like, man, like this is all that for nothing. And after I got out, I immediately was discharged for a medical discharge, as they say. But for me, I wanted to stay. I wanted to this day, I still wanted to go back, but unfortunately, I can't because of that situation. And that's when it led me to this deep, dark spot. I was like, man, like there's no purpose in this anymore. I
Mm.
just failed something that I could have changed many lives. My own life became a very high up person and been able to help a lot of people. And I there felt like the world was crashing on my head. And it was like I got to the point of feeling like I wanted to give up. Like, this
Mm.
is it. There's no point in life anymore. And you get to that dark hole, and it was like that for a year. And I was like, man, if I can keep making it day after day, I know things will get better. I know I'm rock bottom right now. I lost everything when I left. I lost my home. I lost my job, a promotion. I lost all my friends, all the people I lived with. It was nothing to them. It was like, all right, you're done. And I lost a very close family member. Everyone just kind of threw me aside. And it's like, man, like that was rough. It's like you feel like your heart just burst, and it's like, man, this is not it. And I had gotten an opportunity where the Navy had called me, and they said, hey, like, are you interested in like joining the military? I was like, I was already in, but I don't think I could join again. And they were like, what if I told you you could? And they were like, well, I was like, I only would join if I could go special forces. And the guy was like, yeah, definitely. Like, how's your training? And I was like, it's on point right now. I was like, but I haven't trained in a while because it's basically I went through a lot recently. And he's like, how about you start training? I'll get you set up with a recruiter and you'll get tested. I
Wow.
was like, all right, this is my chance to get back into it. And after that, first thing I did was I knew CrossFit was the only thing that could get me to the next step. So going into CrossFit, it was like, I got a rude awakening of where my fitness was actually at. Like you said, you start out with that first work. For me, the first workout was the 2021 Open. And I was
Oh,
like, oh my goodness, this
oh.
is horrible. Why would anyone want to do this? And I was like, but because it was so hard, I wanted to keep doing it. I was like, yeah, this is definitely going to push me to the next level.
Mm.
So I kept doing it and kept doing it. I kept progressing. Just like you say, you don't base it off of aesthetics. You get that, of course, but you don't base it off of that. You base it off of, okay, how's your times? Are you getting better? How do you feel? And all these things just started piling up. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, I actually went into nutrition, and that was a game changer itself. And
Mm.
not only did I feel better, I looked better. And then on top of that, outside of the gym, my life progressed immensely. And it was like, holy cow, like it has a domino effect.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
from that point on, I knew I wanted to give that to the world. And that's my goal now, is just giving what I learned about fitness and nutrition to become the best version of myself, and giving that person to the world and teaching everyone. Everything I give is for free, because I feel like if you really want to have a purpose, finding the best you're gonna have to have a mental clarity,
Yes.
look the best, be the best. And when your mind isn't fogged by eating the best nutrition that you
So good.
can, you start to think clear. You see that the thing that you thought was impossible to achieve is not really impossible anymore. So
Mm.
you start to go towards that. And that's my goal, is to get everyone, because everyone's different. Everyone has a goal here. Mine is to let them see that in themselves and start to go after it.
Mm. Wow, so good. So good. I'm just so inspired and so in awe by how you were able to have so many aha moments at such a young age. And just to say, I was 16 years old, I was already doing all these things, I was already engaging in all this behavior that I knew didn't serve me, and I knew it wasn't me, and I knew it wasn't the highest version of myself. Not many people who are teenagers or in that stage of their life where they don't actually have any accountability, maybe from parents or anyone else, would have that decision to take action and take control over their life. Where does that come from?
I think I got through into it at a very young age. Like we had struggled. We grew up in a what I call a cult religion, and it was hard because you kind of got separated from life and from the real world, and you got hung into this little circle saying these are the only people that you can be around. And basically, we're right. Everyone else in this world is going to go to hell, and only these certain amount of people are going to be alive. And that's kind of like programmed in your brain from a very young age. But once I got older, I kind of started questioning it, and I couldn't find answers. And I was like, is this actually the church that will get you to this place called heaven? And are these people really going to all go to hell? Because I've met some amazing people outside of this church that are 10 times better than what you guys are. They're fit, they're happy, have an amazing relationship with their family, and are doing very successful in life. And I'm like, how in the world is that person going to go to hell when you guys are unhappy, consistently looking for financial support, and you're consistently talking mess about other people behind their back. And I'm like, what is this? I don't feel like this is right. And at a young age, you kind of get thrown into that and you're like, I don't know what to do. And you have a choice to make. It's either you stick with that church or you get thrown out. And we called it cast out, basically. And you're basically not really associated with the church. They tell the rest of the people associated with that church to watch out for you because you have different beliefs and they don't want you to be associated with them. So that's like you're getting thrown into that at such a young age and you're consistently trying to find your way. So at a young age, I was kind of alone. I had a big family, but most of the family members had already left home. I didn't really have anyone in the church. We couldn't hang out with people outside of the church. So you're kind of stuck. And it's like, I don't know what to do. And for me at a young age, I always knew that for me, I wanted to be a leader. And I think it came, even though I don't really agree with my dad for the church that he put me into, I knew just from who he was, he had taught me at a young age how to be a leader and what a leader does and what comes along with being a leader, the negative part of it, and also the blessing of it. And he talked about how being a leader, you're going to have to take the most responsibility. You're going to have to be the one that's going to be taking all the hits. No matter how hard life gets, you stay strong. And at a young age, I wanted to be like that. I admired that person. I mean, we went to church, so we learned a lot about Jesus. And I was like, man, I want to be that miracle man. I want to be that person that can change lives. And for me, I mean, it was Jesus. Now it's different. Like you see so many aspirational people and it's like, man, I want to be like that. Like, why can't I have an impact on this? And you hear these different stories of people that were in the same position as you. And you're like, man, like, why can't I do that? It's not impossible.
Right.
And so for me at a young age, at 16, I had that decision. It was like, man, if I want to do this and help other people out, like it's either this or I'm going to be like that. And you see the people that smoke weed and drink and you see every single day and that are stuck in vices. Where do their lives go? Nowhere. And it's like they hate themselves. They hate their family. They hate life. And it's like, man, that's not me. I don't want to go there. I know I'm starting to head that way and I don't want to continue to be that. So I got to see that version too at a young age. But then I also got to see the people that didn't smoke, didn't drink, had a very happy family, were very successful, and were changing lives immensely. And I was like, how did you do? I want to do that. That's me. That I can see myself doing that. And I think at a young age, that was my choice, is I had role models on both sides. So I got to choose which one do I want to be. And I think everyone has that choice. You can be this person, the person that's stuck in vices, that consistently is going down the wrong road, or the person that's consistently achieving greater things, working towards a better life, a better version of themselves. And one thing I learned at age 16 is that to be the very best in your life, it's not reading books, it's not going to get the best job, it's not money, it's not learning to talk in front of people. The biggest thing to become the best version of you is self-development. Sitting down, seeing who you are and seeing who you want to be and finding the gap and figuring out how to close that gap. Because if the person you are inside is the same person as you are outside, I think you're perfectly aligned with your vision and your purpose. And when you start to become that, everything just starts lining up for you and it just works out like nothing. It feels like it's just flowing. And that's because the you inside is aligned with the you outside who you're portraying to everyone. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned at such a young age. And I'm so grateful for that. And that came from YouTube videos.
Oh my God, that's so good. You gave me chills. That is the best definition of integrity ever. Oh my God, the inside matches the outside. Wow. That was so good. So beautiful. I love how you put that. And again, I continue to admire you and you're so inspirational and this just so powerful coming from such a young age. And again, I find very, very rare these days. And you know, it's interesting. You talked about, oh, I grew up in a cult and just kind of moved on from that. And I just want to kind of go back there because, first of all, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and for sharing. And for also what I noticed in you and the way that you speak is that you actually see all of the good that came out of that environment. What I actually see from you is how everything happened for you, even though it was very unusual circumstances and you were isolated growing up and weren't exposed to a lot of things. It just is so remarkable how you've learned from that. You're so grateful around what you've learned, and you're continuing to expand and explore and really learn about life in a way that is never limiting. Whereas instead of looking back and saying, if this hadn't happened, and you're not bad mouthing the situation that happened, but you're actually looking at how this was a beautiful moment in your life that gave you the superpowers that you have today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going back to that the whole cult religion, I think one of the key things is I had so much hate for it at such a young age. And not just me, like a lot of my family, a lot of the people that I grew up with, we have immense amount of hate towards it because of what we are kind of that shell you're kind of hung into. And it's like, man, why were we stuck in that? Why is it that way? And you can blame your whole life on them. You can say my life is the way it is because of this.
Right.
And that's easy to do. You can do that. But one of the biggest things that I've learned, and I think of myself as I like to look at visionary type people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was big into like the emotional chart. I'm big into the power of the brain, the power of the mind, what your mind thinks it can achieve. But I had heard this from a guy that I actually was my mentor. His name is Wes Watson. And he started talking about gratitude in a way that I've never heard before. And
Mm.
he said he went to prison for 10 years long and he
Mm.
came out 5 years later. He's making $24 million a year.
Mm.
How is that possible that a man that has nothing going on for himself, he's in the worst of worst places, and he's in prison for 10 years, but he's banging out pull-ups, push-ups, just doing burpees in the heat of the environment, getting super ripped, reading books, while he could have been shooting up. He was talking about how prison is basically like the streets. You have the option to really work on yourself, or you can go back to your vices and start killing yourself. And he said I chose to continually work on myself, read books, consistently was working out, bettering himself. As soon as he got out, he was seeing success. And I think that was the biggest thing that really stood out to me is he said that he didn't want to wake up in the morning. He wakes up every morning at 2:45 to hit 100
Oh,
burpees. And
whoa.
he says, I don't want to do it, but it's the things that I choose to do that I don't want to do. That's what proves who I really am. That's what defines me. And he was like, it's not what I do, it's what I don't do. I
Mm.
don't watch porn. I don't give away to vices. I don't talk negatively in my mind. I give gratitude consistently for where my life is. And he was like, you could take all my money away and I still would be doing the same thing today. Why? Because I'm grateful for my life. And when you give gratitude, he talks about it on the list. Gratitude is one of the highest things on the list. And also, they found out authenticity is also the biggest thing on the list. And he talked about that was mostly where I got it from is when the inside of who you are is aligned with the outside of who you are, you become aligned with your purpose. And everything just consistently flows into your life. And he consistently talked about this over and over again. And I was like, man, this dude went to prison for 10 years and he's over here talking about gratitude. And I was like, I can't complain. Like I was in something that wasn't really that bad. I had
Yeah.
great parents. They loved me. I had 18 family members that really loved me. We
Wow.
didn't have any drugs or vices. Like we had great memories. And it was like, you got a choice. You can think about all the things that the church kind of put into your life, or you have the option to think about the way you were raised, the best parts about your life, giving thanks for having an amazing parents that weren't associated with drugs, giving thanks for your family that consistently were building you up to build you into a better man,
Mm.
having great people to look up to. And that was like, you give thanks on this. And when your mind is on that, it's not you don't have time to think about that negative stuff.
Good.
And it's like, okay, now continually think about that. Consistency is the key. And when you build new habits of mind, you start to habitually build a new person.
So good. And I just want to hold the space for a moment because you said so much beautiful, beautiful reminders that I think we all should grab today. And it is how grateful we are for all the things that we have. And generally, we only notice how great everything was the moment it's gone. And it's always in the little things. And it's super interesting. Our society and how we've grown up in general, for most of us, our success is focused on outcome. Success is outcome driven. When I make this much money, then I'll be successful. When I have that house with the 2 garage doors and the 2 cars, then I'll be successful. When I marry this person and have this, then I'll be successful. When I lose X number of pounds, or when I have my 6-pack, then I'll be successful. And so we're always just waiting for that moment to come, right? It's almost a snapshot into the future where finally we're going to feel success. But what I'm actually hearing you say, and what I could not agree with more, is that success is in the system. It's not in the result, it's in the system. Because if you have the system down, the result will continue to deliver over and over and over and over again. So instead of focusing on wanting to release X number of pounds, what system can you build in your life, aka how can you shift your identity and shift who you are so that the outside starts to match the inside, like you said? So that no matter what, you eat in a way that is who you are. It's not because you want to lose weight, it's just because that's how you eat. And you train and move and honor your body in a way that, again, creates an outcome. But you never worry about the system because the system is in place and the system is enjoyable. And the system, when repeated over and over and over again, will continue to give that exact same result. And you see that with the most successful people. Whatever success is, you notice that the things that they have, those things that you want, it wasn't because that's what they focused on initially. It's because they build that system, whether that's in their finance, their careers, in their relationship, they build the system. And then the outcome is always the result that we think is going to bring us joy. It's going to bring us peace. It's going to make us feel like we finally made it. And that's actually never the case. And I believe it's why we're generally robbed of our joy. Because I'm 43, just a couple years older than you, David, just a couple years. I'm 43. And if I look at the last decades of my life, I'll tell you, there were so many moments where I said, when this happens, then this will happen. And when that happens, then this will happen. And when I achieve this, then this will happen. And here's what happened. I did achieve all those things. It didn't actually give me the feelings that I wanted. And all I did next was go after the next thing. And so I've been chasing the next thing over and over again. And that's developed over time. And for sure at 43, what I want at 43 was very different than what I wanted at 33 and what I wanted at 23. And so now it's really all about how do I feel every single day? And I honor myself in what I choose because that's what lights me up. If it lights me up, it never feels like work. If this type of training is so enjoyable for me, and I love trail running, like I get lost in trail running, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything because I'm out in nature. I'm actually just smelling the fresh air and I'm connecting with the sounds of nature. I don't even listen to music. I just want to actually hear the sounds of nature. So when you find that thing that you love, that becomes your system. And you repeat that over and over and over again, it would be impossible not to have the results. And so what if we all did that? What if we all focused today on just being so present and constantly checking in with ourselves, asking ourselves, well, does the outside match the inside? Because that is ultimately fulfillment.
Yes, I agree so much. That is so true. And I think I think human beings are naturally negative. So immediately, like even starting out in the day, like you naturally have these negative thoughts. And one of the scientific things that I've learned about the brain is that I think it's 80% of the thoughts you have today are from yesterday.
Yes.
So if you start creating habits of thinking, you start to have a better day already. So one of the things I wake up early. So I wake up at 4:30 to go to the gym at 5. But one of the reasons why I do it is because it's so hard. When I wake up at that time, I say it's the time when you can hear your thoughts the most. And it's like your mind's like, I had read this piece from Marcus Aurelius in this book called Meditations. And he had talked about how easy it was to not get up. And he talked about, man, the covers are so warm. It's so nice and easy in this blanket and comfortable. But I don't want to go out there into that rain and go start to train my men and lead them. It's hard. And that was one of the things that I learned is it's so hard to do what we don't want to do. But when you put purpose over pleasure, everything starts to magically happen in your life. And it was like, I heard that quote too. It's like, when you start to drive yourself towards your purpose and stop chasing pleasure, your life just changes automatically. You start to see things happening. And it's like, why choose pleasure consistently? Why choose to sleep in bed later at night, sleep later, wake up at 7? Now, if there's a purpose of you being an athlete and you need more sleep, of course, but why not try to go that extra mile? You consistently see people that are very, very successful that consistently are doing things that are very uncomfortable. And that's what I got from Wes Watson, is he consistently does the things he doesn't want to do.
Mhm.
And that's what makes him the person that he is today. And he makes millions. He's consistently making millions a year. But even that alone, he's changing hundreds of thousands of lives a day. I mean, even if you were to go to that guy's page and just scroll through his page, you can see how many people he's gotten super shredded, gotten to a better part of their life, better family situation, got married, got a better job. And you can just, through health and fitness and mindset, and you start to change these three things, your life changes. And that's why I really think, and I mean, you probably have the same experience. Personal development is the key to success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I started my personal development journey, I think it was around 2018. I joined a mastermind and my life changed at that moment. And it was so eye opening. I knew I was always searching for something more. I knew I was very limited by the social environment I was spending time in. And not that there was anything wrong with that social environment. It's just where I knew I was wanting to grow, where I always envisioned myself, was just not in that space. It was far beyond that. And so when I started this journey, not only did I discover all the amazing things about myself, but I also discovered the other side, all the other parts of me that was actually holding me back. And the things that were holding me back were a lot of self-limiting beliefs. It was a lot of belief systems that I had built over the years that came not only from my own failures, but from what other people told me what I should do or what is possible. And to your point, when you start to surround yourself by people who are doing it, that's where everything changes. And that is what a mastermind is all about. A mastermind is a group of people that come together, that share the same mindset, that together through combined consciousness, they elevate their level of thinking. And now we can problem solve. Now we have actually access to the combined consciousness of the entire globe. And what's beautiful about that is you discover parts of yourself that you didn't even know was there. And so I couldn't agree more. If you really focus on growth and personal development, all the other areas of your life will transform. It is impossible to focus on one area of your life and then not see the result in other areas of your life. So imagine you're suffering in your relationship because you're not being intimate, or you're feeling maybe a little bit unconfident, but then you start training and you start focusing on your physical health. All of a sudden that changes your confidence, and now you're more confident, and that the way you show up around your partner is a little bit different. And now how you show up at work is also very different. And this just, again, like you said, it becomes this catapult and this avalanche effect in all the different areas of your life, because you cannot just specifically work on one part of your life without thinking that it is going to impact the other parts. We are all like, we do and we behave in one area the same way that we do in other areas, which is that quote that we always hear: how you do anything is how you do everything. And ultimately you transform who you are. You upgrade that level of thinking. You have a new mind. The way that you see the world starts to change. And with that new perspective, you're able to create amazing things, and you're able to better connect with who you are and really get into what is important to you, what is purposeful to you, and what empowers you in general for you to really continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah, that's so true. Man, it's perfectly said. I mean, yeah, your habits literally create the man. And I think that's one of the key things, is you have to create better habits. And and that's, you said a point that I really like. And it's like you start to change things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the key, is it's not adding things to your life, but taking away things that you're doing and not replacing them, just taking them away. Like, instead of waking up late at 10 in the morning to get up, go scroll on your phone, go use the bathroom, then go eat breakfast. You know how much time, like, there's a lot of people that I hear, like, a very successful people, wake up at 2:45, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, they're making multiple thousands of dollars and already got most of their day done. And it's like, you were sleeping while they were doing that.
Right.
And it's like, come on, like, what can you be doing? Okay, let's wake up a little bit early. Let's get rid of waking up and going straight to your phone, but instead grab it going to the gym, or instead go straight to work. Use those first couple hours of your day to go knock out your most important task. And that's, I think, game changing. Is instead of looking at your phone all the time, get rid of that. Just practice on not being on your phone all the time and see how you can impact people's lives. Because I think everyone has something to give to the world. They just don't realize it. And you have, I think, self-development is one of the biggest things that people don't realize, is that they have something. And I didn't realize it either at such a young age, but you have something that the world can benefit from. And if you don't give that to the world, you're selfish. You're a very selfish individual if you don't work on yourself to give that to the world. And that's what I realized. I was consistently scared, like, who's going to listen to me? I don't have much to give. Like, I work out. That's all. I love to eat healthy. I love to work and go grind. That's my type of thing. But there's so many people that are looking for that guidance, that are in the same situation, that are looking for help, that are looking to get better in life. And when you choose to be selfish and woe is me, I don't have time to help other people, you're selfish by not doing that. And when I realized that, it's like, man, there's a lot of people that need help, and it's my job. Even if people don't really listen to my message, there's going to be one or two people that I can really impact. And that's what matters. You might have thousands of followers, but who are you actually impacting? And that's the key thing. Is a lot of people say, like, what made you get into social media? My impact was what made me get into there. It was the key thing that I knew so much at such a young age. And I didn't really know that I knew that much. But when people started to tell me, like, oh, like, you've been through a lot, why not share your story? There could be a lot of people that you help.
Absolutely.
And it's like, when I started realizing that, and I started just getting on podcasts, posting on social media, you get all these messages and these phone calls out of nowhere, like, man, like, you've helped me immensely just by getting on there and sharing your story. I've been through the same thing. And that is what brightens my day. Doing these types of things. You don't always feel like getting on there. It's like, man, what can I give? I've told these stories multiple times, but then you get on it and you start talking and you give that same energy that that person on the other side of the screen is giving. And then other people hear it and you're like, man, that person really helped me out. Like, I thought I was the only person out here going through it. And it's like, I always take myself back. Like, when I was going through a hard time in my life, where did I look? Well, I didn't really have many people to talk to. So I went straight to YouTube, straight to podcasts. And that's where most people get their information from. And that's the key thing, is go out there. You never know who you're going to touch. Just start though.
Yeah. So good. So good. I love talking to you. You've got a beautiful energy, and I love this conversation so much. I feel like we could keep going for a couple hours, and maybe that just means we have to set up another interview at some time to connect again. So this was really great. And before we end off, David, was there anything else that you wanted to share that you didn't have a chance to just yet?
I think one of the key things that I want everyone to know from this podcast, I think one of the most important things is that life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to toughen up. Like, it is extremely hard. No matter what you do, you might see these people take off immediately and be very successful. I mean, Iman Gaji guy became a millionaire at like 21 years old. When you see that, it's not the same for everyone. Everyone's different. I mean, you see these people that get really jacked at a young age, or other people becoming very successful at a young age. That's their hero's journey. You have a hero's journey. And one of the key points to that is, no matter what happens, if you just keep going, you will win. No matter how hard things get, if you just keep going, you will become successful. You will get that body you want. You will get the mindset and the family and everything that you ever dreamed of, as long as you don't give up and you keep progressing forward. No matter how hard the rainy days are, no matter how hard things come to you in life, if you just keep going, you'll win.
So good. Thank you so much for that. I almost feel like we're all needing to hear this today. Thank you so much, David. This was the greatest pleasure. And so, on that note, if somebody did want to reach out to you and offer some support, or you can maybe share some of your experience and your insight, where could they go to do that?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group. It's Triple V Fitness, and that's where we share all of our information. Come and join us. Give your input. It is a free community where you can come in, get information, free information that people charge $300 a month for you to access. We give that away for free, so you have the resources to do it yourself. We have the community. We give you the support you need, so you can get on your legs and achieve what you want to achieve. You can also get a hold of me on Instagram. It's going to be Messano or David underscore Messano 18, one of 18. And that is literally going to be the two biggest places that you can get a hold of me. Instagram mostly, but you'll find me on there if you ever want to come out, support, or just be a part of a bigger community and a bigger purpose. Go to one of those two and I'll get you set up.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David. We're going to add that into the show notes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.